You tell me when.
Go, turn the key. That's going to be set.
We've just called the meeting to order, by the way, officially. Oh my God. Welcome, I'm Joyce, Voter Information Committee, and just so to let you know, our purpose is to inform and prepare voters in issues to be addressed at the annual and special town meetings and local annual elections, and to encourage voters to register and participate in town government. The committee, Peggy Rose, Joanne Riss, Emily Milan, Tina Gaines, we hope that you will tune in to Channel 18 to see broadcasts of our two prior programs, Financial State of Harwich and the Pre-Town Meeting, which is a review of the most of the big ticket items on the articles on the warrant. We're pleased to have all four of the candidates here today, and more pleased almost to have Judy Thomas, League of Women Voters of Cape Cod area. She's here today to moderate a debate amongst the four candidates, and we're very glad to see this participation here in the audience. Thank you, Judy.
And thank you, Chris. The League is very, very pleased to be able to provide this service to the voters of Chatham and to you, the candidates, as well. As Chris said, I am Judy Thomas of the Cape Area League and a resident of Chatham. It's the League's practice to always provide moderators from a town outside of where the forum is being held. So I come from Chatham. I have no interest at all in the outcome of this election. The League of Women Voters, as many of you know, I hope, is a national, state, and local organization, nonpartisan but political in some of its activities. Political in the sense that we take positions on issues once they've been studied and consensus has been reached. I have a few membership brochures. If anyone would love to join, we'd love to have you too. The League, as I said, is strictly nonpartisan in its work. We do not support or oppose any political party or any candidate. In candidate forums, we provide moderators, as I said, from out of town. The League is pleased that the town of Harwich is having a contested election. I think you have a fairly recent history of not having one, and my town had one last year, not contested, and we know that contested elections mean good voter turnout. Good voter turnout is essential for making democracy effective. The timekeeping and the question gathering and sorting are being done by your Voter Information Committee. I think you've all seen the pink 3x5 cards with pencils. As we even progress in the forum, if you think of another question, just write it on your card legibly, and someone will pick it up and bring it to the question sorters. We'll see how it works. Oftentimes there's more questions than we have time for. If that's the case, after, I'm sure you candidates will be willing to hang around and answer any other questions that we don't get covered. So let me just also now, at this point, review a few things that make the forum go smoothly and in a civil manner. If you haven't already, you can silence your cell phones. During the questioning, we like to have all the applause, anything held to the very end. That allows for more time for questions. So that's and it also just creates more fairness to all the candidates. At the end, you can show your appreciation to the candidates. Questions can be directed to one candidate in particular, but all candidates will have the same opportunity to answer that question. Our candidates have drawn speaking orders, and they've agreed to the format, and so I think we're ready to begin. So, and drawing the order, our first speaker is going to be Bob Rocco. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Rocco. Bob, 3 minutes.
Alrighty. Hi, my name is Bob Rocco. As you know, I'm running for Selectman. First of all, I'd like to thank the League for inviting me here. I've lived in town for approximately 24 years. I've taught school for 30 years. I've owned my business up here in Harwich Center for 7 years. I've been married for 42 years to the same woman. And that it's, I have 4 boys. One of them is in business with me, and two also live in Harwich. I have 7 grandchildren, and 6 of them are going through the Harwich school system at the present time. And as a grandparent, I'm pretty impressed with the system, you know. I don't know what else you want to know about me, but that's all the personal stuff I can tell about. Yes, ma'am. I'm no sorry.
Whoop, whoop. I'm sorry. No, the questions all come from me. But that is a good hint, Bob. If you get a little more time, people like to know why all the candidates are running.
Oh, the reason I'm running because I'd like to get involved with the town now. Now that I've retired, raised my children, it's time for me to start giving back to the town. All right, I'm retiring out of the restaurant business soon, and like I say, it's very important for me to give back to the town. When I lived in Grafton, Mass, I was involved with politics there. My kids were young at the time, so I had time to do it. Then they started growing up, and I got more involved with my family than the town politics, which to me was very important. Now they're out of the house, they're all on their own. I want to go back and give something to the town that I enjoy.
All right, Julie?
Hi, I'm Julie Kavanagh, and I have been living here in town for 15. Sure. Is that better? Okay. So I've been here in Harwich for the last 15 years. I was lucky enough to relocate to Harwich with my husband, who's from Dublin, Ireland, and my twin daughters. So we moved here when my husband got a job at Shepley Wood Products. He's been there ever since. And I was lucky enough to be able to take a telecommuting position when I was working for Citizens Bank's broker-dealer. So anyway, in terms of the reason I'm getting involved, it's really sort of been a progression. As Rob has said, you know, I've always had an interest in politics and government. I interned when I was in high school for Tom O'Neill when he was lieutenant governor. I went on to go to Stonehill to get a BA in political science, Bachelor of Arts in area of political science. I did political internships at the State House again. John Houston, who was a state senator from Worcester. Then I was lucky enough to do an international political internship with the Progressive Democrats in Ireland. Having, you know, graduated from Stonehill, then I went on to work and got my master's at Harvard University in it's a Master of Liberal Arts in area emphasis is government. Went on to work at the State House for the Committee on Post Audit and Oversight under the Massachusetts House of Representatives. After that, I left there and went over to John Hancock. I got a job in a regulatory compliance department over there as a result of the insurance company's lawsuits and such that formed an Office of Business Conduct. So I've sort of had this progression of this type of a background, and then I went on, I was recruited to work at Citizens broker-dealer, Citizens Financial Services at the time in the compliance department. So, you know, really my job has always been sort of regulatory and compliance and government-oriented. When I relocated here, eventually the commute to Quincy got to be a bit too much, so I decided to get another job, and I got a job over at Lighthouse Realty in Chatham. And I learned a great deal about residential, commercial properties, leases, property management. I can't even begin to tell you the troubles I saw with housing. So here I am. I'm really jumping in. My girls are 17, and I think that they can handle stuff at home better, and I have time.
Okay, Michael.
Hi, thank you all for coming, and thank the League for putting this on. My name is Michael MacAskill. I've been on the board now for almost a year, Board of Selectmen, so I am currently a board member. I graduated Harwich High School in 1989. I've spent my 45 years in town here. Both of my parents were town employees. My mother is just retiring from the town this year. After graduation, I went to work for a company out of Pennsylvania that owned a business in Orleans. I got lucky enough to buy that in 1996. In 2012, I sold it and semi-retired. and thought after a year I was very bored, so I thought I would get myself involved and give back to the town. I joined a committee, thoroughly enjoyed working with the people of the town on that committee, and then ran for Ed McManus's one-year seat that was left on the board. I love the town. I love giving back to the town. I have a lot of time, and I've raised my three daughters here, or are raising my 3 daughters here, and that's about all, really. I love the town, and I want to continue to give back to the town.
Okay. Linda?
Hi, Linda Cebula, and I'm also a sitting selectman. And I'm running again because I feel that I bring a great deal to the position. I know that I ask the hard questions sometimes to the chagrin of the person being questioned, but I think that we need to get the facts in order to have a good basis for making decisions. My background is I have an MBA, I have degrees in history and accounting. I have a CPA through Coopers & Lybrand in Boston, PricewaterhouseCoopers now. And I have extensive experience in the manufacturing and retail industries. I think that set me up to always ask the hard questions because particularly in retail and manufacturing, you don't have a lot of room for error. And one of the things at the town, as we end up with tighter and tighter budgets, this was an unusual year. We have $4 million worth of free cash, unusual year. But we really have to watch our pennies in the same way that you watch the pennies in your own house. So that's what I have to say.
All right. We'll move on to the second part of our forum then, which is questions and answers from you, the audience. The first question is, if you are elected, do you have a specific area of town government that you would like to focus on? And we'll begin with Linda.
I think the area of town government to focus on right now is the whole wastewater issue. I think it's one of the biggest things that we're going to spend money on. It's a huge bunch of decisions. It involves zoning changes, possibly. It's going to be expensive, and we have to look at all the pieces of it. We have this possibility of partnering with Chatham and using their plant, and if we can work that deal out, I think it would save us a lot of money, because to build a plant in East Harwich for that sewering would be like something like $50 million on top of all the piping. If we can use the Chatham plant, that cuts that expense out completely. So I think we really have to focus on that, and that would be my area of focus.
Okay, and then we'll go to Michael.
I would have to agree with Linda on that. Having served now a year on the Board of Selectmen, and also I'm the liaison to the Wastewater Implementation Committee and on the negotiating team for the Board of Selectmen for the Chatham-Harwich deal. The cost of this is going to be large, and the taxpayers are going to see the impact of that. So that is certainly the most important thing to me. That, along with our general responsibility of setting fees and making policy for the town.
All right. Julie?
Well, I don't have the same level of understanding as my two counterparts here, but I would say that I do understand wastewater to be a major issue for the town. I have read the various reports. I understand the issue in terms of the nitrogen loading, the costs that our town will incur, and really what we're facing here on the Cape. So I probably would agree that it would be a major area of focus for me, as well as some zoning issues.
Okay, and Bob?
I have to agree with them, okay? It's not but I agree, wastewater is very important. Cape Cod needs it very important, because we are absolutely ruining Cape Cod without having it through the septic system, storage system that's going on. And the problem is that I do have one disagreement with that. I think we should have our own plant. I think we've been going this since 2007, I think it has been. We've been looking at it, talking about it, and I think it's time for us to get our own plant. Don't worry about what Chatham's doing. Don't worry about Dennis. Don't worry about Yarmouth. Have our own plant. The state is offering a interest-free loan, which it is. It's going to cost us around $200 million. That's about the number that came in. But if we go in with Chatham, we're going to have to keep on paying their fees, and whatever they're going to dictate to us, either half the town or the entire town, that this is what you're going to be paying. And I think we should be in control of our own destiny with our own wastewater plants.
All right. The second question is this. What are your thoughts for developing a year-round economy for Harwich? And as a selectman, what do you think is your role in this development? And this time, we'll start with Julie.
Well, I think that developing a year-round economy in Harwich and on the Cape in general is extremely important. But I think it's coupled with a really difficult problem that we're facing, which is young people can't stay here, and yet we have a blossoming elderly population that is going to need services and care. And so I think that it does, take work on behalf of the different parts of our town government, and I think that overall, the Board of Selectmen is involved in helping to encourage that work and to review it, and the best way to move Harwich forward is really after analyzing all that kind of information. But we have to look at economics, we have to look at the population, we have to look at housing. There's so many tiers involved in creating a sustainable, year-round, work environment for people. It's very difficult.
Okay, Bob?
Well, we need a year-round economy. That's obvious, okay? We can't keep on taxing us to death over it, but how are we gonna do it? We don't have the workforce. We don't have the industry. Like I said, go back to the workforce, like she just said, they're bailing out. Young kids cannot afford to live on Cape Cod. Young kids can't afford to live in Harwich. So to get a year-round economy, I think we have to work with the Chamber of Commerce. I think the Selectmen have to somehow get really totally involved with this. Because as a Selectman, I know we're controlling it all. I know what's going on here, but the year-round economy is such an issue that it's not just one area that can do it. It's not just the Chamber, it's not just the Selectmen. It's something that all the committees should be working towards, because we're all residents of Harwich. And like she said, the population gets old. This is going to be a retirement town with young kids bailing out. I forgot what the percentage I read in the paper, how much it was. That's, it was like 20% we've lost of young children leaving Cape Cod.
Right.
That's a lot of kids leaving. That's a lot of workforce leaving. And so we have to really bring it so that they can stay here and they can work in different things. They can work in restaurants. They can work computers. They go to Cape Cod community, get an education there, and come back to the town and help us all out. But the way it's going, it's just hard to get a year-round economy in Cape Cod.
Okay. Let's go to Linda. Same question.
I think it would be good to have more of a year-round economy, and I think all of it really starts focusing on housing, because we talk about the cost of housing, and we have to start doing more about it. The young people, if they want to stay here, they can't afford to. And we have so much, there are things that we could do in terms of encouraging affordable housing, encouraging some kind of buy-down programs, doing more support so that people can afford to stay here, raise their families, and contribute to the community. I also think that we have to start looking at ways that we can encourage companies to move here. And with the internet, 30 years ago, the internet, there was no internet. It didn't make any difference. It made a huge difference where you were. Now there are so many of the small businesses that thrive because they can sell on the internet. And we can have more and more of those and have more of a year-round economy.
Okay, Michael.
Hi. I would love to have a year-round economy on the Cape. I'm not sure that any of us will ever actually see that. I was in the retail business for the last 25 years, and it was a seasonal retail business when I bought it. I managed to, by getting into different sports and different seasons, I was able to extend that to an 8-month business. But after about 8 months in the wintertime, people seem to leave and flee Cape Cod. I think we need to bring some smart growth to the town and to the Cape in general. More businesses, and I think as the more businesses come, the affordable housing to keep our young people here to work is absolutely essential. But without the jobs, I'm not sure that the housing is the first step. There seems to be businesses, most of the businesses down here are seasonal businesses. They go away at the end of the season or shut down or just make it And until we bring some more growth and some more people into these jobs, I'm not sure that we can do that. So I think it starts with some smart economic development and some strategic planning and new business.
All right. Thank you. The third question is this. What is your position on the redevelopment of the Route 137 corridor of East Harwich? And this time, we'll start with Michael.
Thank you. I've read those plans. It seems that this has been going on for about 16 years. There's been a lot of proposals. There's a collaborative out in East Harwich that has a position, and the planning department has submitted several proposals. So each side has submitted proposals. The East Harwich Collaborative feels that the town has been a little too aggressive with the development out there. We need to get, I believe we need to get all of the stakeholders together, the town, the East Harwich Collaborative, and come up with a happy medium, and I don't think that that's ever been proposed. I think that talking about economic development, that is one of the areas that has been targeted for more economic development, so I see that there is some room for growth out there. How much growth, I think, depends on the stakeholders.
All right, Julie, your opinion?
Thanks. I would agree with Michael on that because ultimately there's been a lot of time and effort, as I see it from the reports I've read through, that has been spent on that issue. And to Mike's point, there's one group feeling one way about lack of development. They don't want to see development. And then there are others feeling that the town has pushed too hard. I agree that there has to be some sort of happy medium meet in the middle, figure out something that everybody can live with. I mean, I live around the corner from that whole area, and the one thing I think tends to get forgotten is we can talk about this all day long, about what we want in one group versus the other. But this is private land, and it can be sold at any given time. So, in my opinion, why not have more of a say of how we want that developed versus somebody just selling those parcels and, larger and bigger and more aggressive growth than we really want. So I think that it's a good thing. I think it feeds into Mike's point about having, a chance for some additional jobs. And it doesn't have to be overdone. I think that there's room for compromise.
Okay. Bob?
Well, I feel that we should develop that area. I don't think we should bring in box stores there. I just think that we should start developing in, because that way we could get some economic growth there. We could start bringing in some extra tax money, which we can always use. We could bring in young people to work there that might go around, might rent the houses that we have up for rent around here. Just to bring the population up so that it's going to help us in Harwich a lot. That's, it's about all I can say on it, because I really am not up on that one, that question.
Okay. Linda?
I think that the area could be developed more. It is private property. We agree on that. And I think that the one thing that I don't see that has been done is all these plans laid out on a table and start highlighting. Take the yellow highlighter. Do we all agree on, make up a number, all the buildings can only be 20 feet tall? If that's all it is, then that issue is done. Find based on my reading of all these articles, there's these plans, there's probably about a half dozen areas where there is real conflict. And there's a lot of minor conflicts. Should the building be 21 feet high or should it be 20 feet high? Well, make it 20 and a half. Make everybody happy. But I think if we don't settle down, if we don't actually get to the table, figure out how we're going to solve this, we won't be in control of our destiny. Those plots will be sold, and it is private property, and people can build what they want to build within our town zoning requirements. So we really need to push that and have those hard conversations and not walk away from them.
All right. Moving on to the fourth question. What is, in your opinion, the most effective means of communication between the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator? Should communications be shared among all members of the board and the town administrator? And we will start with Bob.
Well, my form of communication is old-fashioned. I'm a firm believer of going face-to-face with someone, all right? And after I go face-to-face with someone, I think all the communication should be given to everybody. That all the selectmen should know the answers for any question I have down there. I don't think that anything should be hidden. It should be all open to the selectmen. Every selectman is there, so that everybody can be on the same page. And again, my form of communication is going down there and talking, sitting down across from him, or her, if it depends what happens, to find out what's going on. Because I want to know what's going on, and I don't, you can tell a lot by sitting there talking to someone more than just sending emails. And that's why I've, all my life, it's all I've ever done. If I have a problem with someone, or if I want to talk to someone, I call them up, I make the appointment, I go in, I sit down, I talk about it, and then I leave. And if I have to send the communication to someone else, I give it to them, the same thing. So that's the way I believe it should be done.
Linda, your thoughts on that?
I don't think there's any single means of communication that is actually the means of communication. I think the topic is communication. I think that how someone communicates is going to be based on the sense of urgency of the topic. If there are mundane items, just regular items, I think an email being sent out to all the selectmen that such and thus is happening, this is the update on it, is fine. I think that the town administrator updating us every week at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, which also updates the community, is also fine, because that's a verbal communication. I agree that we should call and say, I have a question on such and thus, and sit down and actually have the conversation. And I think that the town administrator, if there's something that's really, really urgent, should be on the phone to all of us, telling us that this is happening, it's a problem.
Okay. Michael?
I have to agree with Linda. The bulk of the communication should happen at this table so that the public knows what it is. We have a meeting once a week. There's very little updates that we need during the week unless there's an important topic. If there's an important topic, he should, I prefer email. Phone calls are fine, but one-on-one communication should be pretty limited with the town administrator. Therefore, I advocate for everything happening at this table, and we get a packet in a Dropbox every week for the meeting, which is also public record, so the public can go and read it before the meeting. So I don't think that there's, other than executive session material, I don't think that there's much that shouldn't just happen at this table, even memos so that the public knows about day-to-day business as the week goes.
Okay. Julie?
I would have to agree with what's been said, because, at this point, this is the bulk of the communication. But I would say that if there was an emergency situation, that required a phone call, that would be fine, but I also think it should be followed up as documented in an email to say that such and such was discussed, so it's part of the public record. But other than that, I would agree with what's been said.
Okay. This next question is a little bit of a follow-up to that. Is it appropriate for selectmen to speak directly with town personnel? And if so, under what circumstances might that be? And this time we'll start with Linda.
I think there are times when you go directly to a department head and ask a question. If you have a question on the procedure of a department and you say, can you explain that procedure to me? Because someone probably has asked me what the procedure is, and if I don't know it, because the Board of Selectmen don't know everything, and we are not in total control of everything. Town meeting is in control of everything. But so you go and talk to a department head and you ask a question. If you feel that you have an issue with that procedure, then the next thing you do is you come back to the Board of Selectmen, you talk about it here, talk with the town administrator in public, and then have that procedure looked at. But if you're looking for, can you tell me the next 6 streets that are going to be tarred and repaired and resurfaced? I don't see any problem with that.
All right. Julie?
I would agree. I mean, if you're going to somebody in their normal department to say, how would I get a building permit and what would the process be? I mean, whether it's on a personal note because you're looking to do something, or whether it's just that you want to understand the process. I mean, I think as long as you refrain from trying to impact that process, you're you're clearly just querying for that information.
Okay. And Mike?
I think in any issue is, any issue that can go through town administration should go through town administration. Basic and general questions that aren't leading or offering any opinion. We're a small community. I know all the department heads in town here. I know most of them personally. So I don't feel that there's any reason I can't talk to them. I certainly, as a board member, owe the respect to the town administrator. To anything to do with day-to-day business needs to go through the town administrator. Talking and clarifying something, I don't see a problem with.
All right, thank you. And Bob?
I see nothing wrong with going to talk to department heads. If you have a problem with them, sitting down, talk with them, solve the problem. And then if you have to go to town administrator, then you go to town administrator to settle what's going on. But I see no problem. I agree with the three of you that there's no problem at all talking to, someone about problems on the board.
Okay. We're still sort of staying on the topic of role. So here is another one. If you are elected, describe the role you would use when setting policy. Where do you draw the line between setting policy and avoiding involvement with the role of the town administrator? Let me just read that last question. Where do you draw the line between setting policy and avoiding involvement with the role of the town administrator? And this time, we will start with Bob.
I think that you go through the town administrator, starting, like you said, starting the role, as you're going through with him on what the policy is going to be. After you get all the information from the town administrator, then I think it's time for the selectman to set the policy on that. He is not a policy maker. The town administrator is not a policy maker. He should be someone that guides the selectmen on some of the policy, the beginning of the policy, the outline of the policy. And then the selectmen sit down, discuss it, and make the policy on that.
Right. And then we will move to Mike.
I think it's an interesting question. I think the policies are made by the Board of Selectmen. And I think that the collection of information prior to the policy comes from town administration and through staff, and also sometimes through committees. So I don't believe that there's a chance really for a line crossing with the town administrator. I believe that the information, it's really an information gathering with a lot of people, and then the Board of Selectmen as a whole introduce word and create the policy.
Julie.
I would agree with that. I think that ultimately the Board of Selectmen's job is to, make policy, and that information is funneled through the town administrator and the various departments. I guess the only time I would see a need to have a further discussion as a group, as the board, would be with the town administrator if somehow things were filtering in that we thought were an issue. And maybe that's something in an executive session, but I think overall it is really a process that the information comes to us through the various groups within the town that report to the administrator, and his job is to then, push along that information to us, and we are to make policy from there.
Okay, Linda?
I would say that I think it's, if we are the policy-making board, I think we make the policy and the town administrator executes that policy. I think it is the role of the town administrator to bring us the information on which we can make good policy decisions. I also think that another part of the policy making is listening to the community, because there are times when you're sitting at the Board of Selectmen, and there's the 5 of us sitting here, and we think that what we've just made is a dandy policy, and then we find out that it really doesn't work. I think it's then up to us to talk to the town administrator in open session. This stuff should be open session, to talk about, we thought this policy was going to make sense. Now let's talk about these issues that have cropped up. How do we change the policy? Or is it an execution, a procedural issue? But I think that I don't see anywhere we would be drawing lines, crossing lines.
Okay. Several of you in an earlier question mentioned affordable housing, and so there's 2 questions dealing with that. Jump-starting the process is one, and along with that, are you in favor of amending some of the zoning bylaws to allow for more opportunities to create workforce or affordable housing, maybe especially rental housing? So for that question, we'll start with Julie.
Yes, I think that, housing is a big issue here on the Cape, and in particular in Harwich, in this area, and I think that what's lacking is a lot of rentals, whether it be affordable, rental income properties, whether it be really workforce housing. There's a large gap there as well. There's also a huge void in, say, 3 to 4 bedroom rentals, even if it weren't a standalone home. We're surrounded by, second homes, but that are unoccupied. And of course, it's up to the person to decide if they want to rent their house. I'm not implying that, but for an area that has tons of houses and housing, we don't have enough for our families trying to live in town. We don't have enough for the workforce population. So I do think that there are some zoning issues that have to be addressed to help, improve that situation.
Okay. Bob?
I don't think we should change the zoning laws for affordable housing. We hold people to certain standards. If someone has to do work on their house and their house falls within a certain zoning, then they have to pay the consequences whether they can do it or not. So are we going to be a point of, okay, let's change it for this group, but we can't change it for this group? Okay, let's change it now because it's better for them now, but last year it wasn't good enough. No, I don't think we should change any of the zoning laws at all for affordable housing. They should stay with one standard and one standard only.
Linda?
I think I'd have to probably clarify that comment, Bob, or comment back, which is, I don't think changing the zoning for affordable housing that you downgrade what is being built as affordable housing. I think the comment is more, what could we do to encourage more affordable housing? Because building standards are building standards. We can't build a wreck and have somebody then say, oh, it's affordable. But there are standards, and we need to maintain those. I do think that there are probably some areas where we could have more denser production. We could have more second story. I think that the second story the apartments attached to houses probably needs to be revisited so that we can have that be a little easier. There's some access issues, so that's what I would say. I think we have to look at each zoning thing, and if somebody comes up with an idea, we have to pursue it.
All right, thank you. And Michael?
To Linda's last point, I'd be open to anything that makes sense. We do have an affordable housing problem on the Cape, and in Harwich in particular, we have a problem. But we have to identify what the problem is. Do we want workforce housing? And what would be workforce housing? Would that be apartments on people's houses? And that would be a zoning thing that I would look at. We also, with the increased cost of living, we have to start thinking more about our seniors and their ability to live here and stay here. So whatever makes sense that way. I don't want to open up the affordable housing to continue to bring people here with no jobs. So it really, for me, is community housing. It would be to keep the youth here, to keep our seniors here, and to make sure that people can afford to live in our community that are from our community.
All right, I think you've all dealt with that, correct? All right, so we're going to move on to parking. Parking on Route 28 in Harwich Port. The parking lot between Cranberry Liquors and the Waystack building will soon close, which might impact the nearby businesses. Would you have any ideas on how to improve the parking situation in that particular area? And we will start with Michael.
I haven't looked at this at all. I do know that I read the plan to move that building forward. There is still going to be parking behind it. There is going to be less parking behind it. I think parking in Harwich Port is a big issue. There is a lot of people that enjoy our great beaches. They come here in the morning and they fill up the chamber parking lot as quickly as they can and go to the beach for the day and come back and move their cars. So I think we need to address who's parking where and why, and maybe find some expanded parking for maybe some of the employees that work for these businesses that park their car early in the morning, and don't go back to it until the end of the shift. If we could move some of those cars into smarter parking, that might help. But as far as parking along Route 28, I think we're a long way away from adding any street parking out there. I think we need to address the current parking problem, which is far greater than just that plaza that's being moved.
Okay. Linda?
Well, first off, I think that parking lot that's in front of where Dino's is, our beloved Dino's, is, that is private property, and that parking really is for the businesses, the people who are going to those businesses. So that's one. But we are working at this point on a plan to try to open up some parking behind TD Bank, that if we could cut through, the plan is that we're looking at is to kind of cut through and use the back of that parking lot. And if we could, again, if that could be the longer-term parking for the employees, and therefore the chamber parking lot could move, have more throughput to it. But if we can somehow do that, and I think it just means there's an article, one of our articles in town meeting is some money to actually open that up so that we can use that back parking area, because really in the banks, there's not that much parking there. And I have to say that I appreciate the banks that on, say on Sundays when the banks are closed, that they have no problem with us using their parking lots for anything else in town, and they really are pretty good about it. But that's what I would say. I don't see us parking on Route 28, because I know I go through Chatham, and when you're going through Chatham and somebody's trying to parallel park, and there's it's really, you have to have eyes in the back of your head. But, so I'm not sure I would ever want to see parking on 28 in Harwichport.
Thank you. Being from Chatham,
You know that.
I don't even go down. Bob?
I think parking on 28 is going to be impossible. I agree with everybody on that. The street isn't wide enough. The only way it's going to be wide enough if you have to tear the sidewalks apart to do it. But I really think that we should have the parking where the chamber is. They should be given a certain amount of spots, and the rest we should have some type of parking kiosk. You can see it's not that busy in Harwich, in Harwichport, but that parking lot's entirely filled during the day. And people are dropping off people to the beaches, go up there, park all day because they don't want to buy stickers, which, is wrong. So I really think that we should look into giving the chamber 10, 15 spots, and then do kiosk parking where people get charged to park there. Maybe they will buy stickers then, and it won't be filled with people going to the beaches instead of going to our stores. Because I walk down there in the summertime. I'm there and I sit on that park bench, and it's a great place to sit though too. But I sit on that park bench, and you can see the parking lot's totally filled. And you're looking around, and you could probably count 20 people walking around Harwichport during the day. So I really believe that, we should start charging it. And I think that the charge should stop after a certain amount of time, so that the businesses can have, at night, they can have, free parking over there. So that's the way I feel on that.
Okay, Julie?
I would agree that there's no way that you could have parking on Route 28. I don't know how that could ever work. And I would be open to learning more about any other parking plans, as you mentioned, behind the bank and stuff. And I mean, obviously, that's where I think most of us park when there's something, with a stroll or whatever. So the banks have been wonderful about that. But I would be interested in learning more about any other possibilities. I'm thinking about it, and I can't really place any other piece of property in that area that would be incredibly helpful. So whatever, I don't know if we really need to move to a fee parking. I don't know if we'd be hurting businesses in that regard, or maybe we'd be eventually helping, if we're driving people from just sitting at the beach. I think it needs further review for me.
Okay. The next question overlaps two areas. It deals with what the writer says is the largest budget item for Harwich, being the Monomoy Regional School District. What ideas do you have for controlling costs, which really falls into the school board, I think, or school committee. But what ideas do you have for controlling costs while balancing and maintaining the quality of education that the system needs? So perhaps it's how would you cooperate or work with the school committee in trying to control costs while maintaining quality? And we will start with Bob.
Well, I watched the school committee go in front of Selectmen, and, to be honest, I thought the Selectmen did a great job in keeping it down, keeping them fall right in budget. But now, I was talking to my son in the school committee, thinking of changing hours on the school, and they're thinking of putting on 7 more buses. Well, where are they gonna get this money? Are they going to the Selectmen now and say, we need more money for this? I think that, like you said, I personally, my opinion is, I thought they did a great job. The Selectmen did a great job with the budget, watching what was going on, watching a lot of the line items, seeing what had to be cut, and the school committee came in with, you know, a good budget. It's supposed to be going right through town meeting with no problem. So that's all I can say on that. It just seems to be very happy with the budget process that went on this year.
All right. Julie?
You know, my understanding is the budget process with the school was definitely better this year than it has been. Of course, you know, at the same time, you're dealing with a brand-new school system. It's only, 3 years old at this point. So I think that obviously communication is key when you're talking about, you know, the taxpayers' money. I think the school board, as well as the Board of Selectmen, does a good job at really trying to hammer everything out that they possibly can give the schools, and to realistically, you know, at times have to face cuts. I understand that. But I think that as a community, we understand the importance of our schools. We understand even if you don't have children in the schools, the school system, the strength of it is important to all of us, to the value of our homes, to the value of our town. So one thing I would just want to point out is I think it's important for communication. I think it's important to be realistic, but I also think it's important to look at this young school system and know that you've got to be able to grow and expand to, you know, within reason, to strengthen it. Because if we don't support it and we don't continue to provide so that there are greater opportunities, we're going to have gone through all this process of regionalization for nothing. Because if we don't keep this school system positive and strong, then we have to worry about the outcome at the end. And on the same token, I would say, speaking to Bob's comment about the time change, I know that that's controversial. And it's going to require a lot of painstaking discussion, you know, and I understand the cost of buses and stuff, and we also have to look at the overall benefit, educational-wise.
Okay, Michael?
I would mirror a lot of what Julie said, but transparency and communication are the 2 most important things. I think the school committee represents a certain amount of the school committee represents part of our community, and the school definitely is part of our community. So, you know, not much different than the Board of Selectmen. Their committee is being, in my eyes, being fiscally responsible, looking to cut where they can cut, but looking also to provide our kids with the best education they can. So if the 2 boards and the community continue to work together, I think that the process this year was far better than the process last year. Our town administrator had met prior to budget for 6 months, going over budget processes and gathering information and bringing it back before the board. 3 months before, our chairman sat with the superintendent of schools and also brought back. There's funding formulas, but you know, supporting the school for all the reasons that Julie said makes sense to the entire community. With the increased cost of everything, you know, our job is to look at budget time at every line we can look at and take the recommendations of our town administrator and make sure that we're doing the right thing so that taxes don't continue to go up.
Linda?
Well, first off, just the comment that it is a regional school district, so by all the laws, we don't have any say at the Board of Selectmen level, the town level, of what they can or cannot charge us. So I think that keeping the communications open, making sure that we all understand what we can afford as a community, helping them to understand what we can afford as a community. I think communications are key, and I do think, I agree, I think our town administrator did a nice job of keeping those lines open and making sure that we share information so that everybody understands how big the pie is. And I think the schools have done a good job. Yes, they are new, but they're also an existing school system. It just happens to be a region now, so they know what they're doing. And they know that they have to be mindful of the balancing the education of the students with the economics.
Okay, thank you. This is a good question. Several other towns have recently adopted pay-as-you-throw for trash, dealing with the trash. What are your thoughts on pay-as-you-throw? And Linda, we'll start with you.
I can see both sides of the issue. I can see the hope that it will increase recycling, which apparently it's from everything that I've read, pay-as-you-throw will increase recycling. However, the one area where I don't see that it is going to impact that is on the businesses. Businesses don't have to recycle. They just, all the trash can go in because, and they're not separating it into little bins for the most part. So you end up with some of them that are doing it, will do it, but for the most part, you go into a food service business and you get your plate and your napkin and all this. Where does all that trash go? It goes right into one bin. Nobody is separating it. So I think that before we look at pay-as-you-throw, I think we have to look at stronger things on recycling. If you go to the island of Nantucket, they have what they call the dump Nazis, and they have to have all of their bags are clear. And if, as you bring your bags, businesses, residents, no matter who it is, you have to, if there's a single little teeny piece of recycling and the bag is rejected, and you have to go home, you gotta take your bag, take out that piece, bring the bag back. They go through that. They will take the businesses that will come in and collect trash, they will say, okay, dump it out, we want to see it. If there's a bag that has something in, the entire load will be rejected. Their recycling rate is through the roof. But they're also an island, they don't have any place to put it. So but if we have to all be recycling, not just the homeowners.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Well, I think that, I guess my first question off the bat is, here we are going forward with this system, the dump system where they're going to have the camera and be able to look at your license plate. And so my first inclination is to question, how does that affect that? Are we looking at having to then revamp a system we're just trying to introduce? And of course, the biggest issue I would want to know more about is the actual savings, the recycling, all of that. I feel like I would need more information to make a thoughtful, answer to that. And I do think that, it's kind of nice that the dump is trying to move forward, and I don't know how that would affect them.
Okay. Bob?
Well, I agree with Linda about the recycling, bag as you throw. But also, if you look back at it, a lot of the towns that have done this have gone back to regular dumps. To see that is not very useful. So why waste the time or the energy or the money to try to do bag as you throw when we're probably going to go back to it? But I do agree that we have to we have to educate a lot more people. And again, not just the homeowners, the businesses, that we have to educate them for recycling. Recycling is big money, and we're losing out on that. And like I said, I agree with Linda when she talks about recycling, but the bag as you throw, I think, is useless. I don't think we should even consider it in our town, because it's gonna go, we have it for a year, and we end up going back to the regular. But we do have to do something to educate everybody about recycling.
And Mike?
I think to the point I made a couple questions ago, I'm up for anything that makes sense. This has not come before us. Our DPW does a great job with our dump, recycling. There's times when our recyclables cost more to get rid of than regular trash. The world is choked with recyclables in some cases right now. I'd have to see the numbers.
Okay. Moving on then to the next question. should our water, drinking water infrastructure be addressed when wastewater infrastructure is also addressed? And for that one, we will start with Michael.
Thank you. We have an award-winning water department. I mean, that's, we have great water. We have a great water department. They're very conscientious of our infrastructure. They have been before us. There is they have a long-term plan on infrastructure that needs to be replaced, and they're on top of it. Anything, and we have discussed this, anything when they have a road opened up where infrastructure will need to be replaced, they have talked about it, as they are right now with the gas lines on Queen Anne Road. When the main gets replaced for the gas company and they open up the roads, they're talking about replacing infrastructure with water. So I would defer that to our water department, and they do a great job planning, and I believe that they will continue to do a great job, but more important, they will replace infrastructure when the roads are open.
Okay. I lost my place. Were you the last one?
I was the first.
You were the first. Okay, there you go. I didn't make my check mark. Okay, Linda.
I would say that our water department and our highway department both work very closely together, so that when a road is being opened up for something, the water department knows it, and the highway department knows when they're going to be doing something on the water side, so that they work together really well. So I'm a little confused by the question, because the water infrastructure, the pipes, et cetera, as they get replaced as they need to. I think our water department replaces a few miles of pipe every single year, and they're working their way through it because they have pipes that are still in the ground that are from 1950, and they've got their whole plan out, and they know that these are all going to be replaced, and they do a terrific job of it.
Okay, Julie.
I would agree. I would agree with Michael and Linda on that. I mean, the water department, we have a very strong water department. Our public works department is excellent as well, and I would defer to them. I mean, we're already paying for pipes to be replaced, and I think that they're smart in the way they approach all of the infrastructure, so I would defer.
Okay.
I have to agree with all of them. I mean, our water department's great. I have personal dealings with them. They replace things. They do a good job. They really do. And so I have to agree with it.
Okay. Now, moving back to something dealing with wastewater again, a questioner asks, should we as a town be considering sewering in Harwich Port now, as we are considering East Harwich? And we will start that with Julie.
I think that any opportunity that we have to look at sewering, we need to look at the costs. We need to look at, the overall cost of putting the pipes in. But most importantly, as we talked about before, we need to figure out our plan in terms of, are we going to work something out with Chatham? Are we going to go it alone? I think that overall, my understanding on the focus on East Harwich was the location to Chatham and their facility. So, I think we have to look at the information and decide collectively, does it make more sense to start somewhere else for some reason? We have to look at what that reasoning may be.
Okay. And Michael?
I think Harwich Port, I think first and foremost, we have a wastewater implementation committee, and we also have a final draft of our comprehensive wastewater management plan. In that comprehensive wastewater management plan, it calls for East Harwich first for several reasons. Number one reason was it was the largest area for potential growth. Number two is we've actually have traces of nitrogen in one or two wells in East Harwich. So the biggest effect seems to be there. And then number three is the potential deal with Chatham and the cost savings. To build our own plant at the DPW, I believe the cost was around $55 million. To tie in with Chatham right now, the rough number that's thrown out, it's not the number, was approximately $9 million. It would allow us to do that entire watershed. It is also our biggest watershed, East Harwich. And the state, the county, and the federal government are trying to get projects going in cooperation with other towns. And that is why we have chosen, those reasons are why we have chosen East Harwich first. Certainly Harwichport, there is some development that can happen in Harwichport. There's 3 beautiful harbors in Harwichport that we need to address, and it is in the comprehensive wastewater management plan, but just scheduled for a little bit later. Until we make a deal with Chatham, everything's still on the table. So if something doesn't happen in Chatham, we might re-explore Harwichport first.
Okay, Linda?
I agree with Michael. I think that East Harwich is the area where has the greatest opportunity for growth and development. We're also spending a ton of taxpayers' money over on the Muddy Creek project, the culvert being widened to be able to flush out that whole area. So I think that then you follow that up with the sewering in the East Harwich area that then further tries to protect and clean up Pleasant Bay. So Harwichport is on the list because of the harbors, and I also think that's a place where we could get second-story rental apartments. Right now, the septic systems in Harwichport aren't going to really allow for that, but if we end up sewering down the road, literally, we will end up with potentially rentals, inexpensive rentals, and further strengthen that downtown area as a community area, as opposed to just commercial.
Okay, and Bob?
I don't think we should do anything in Howardsport right now, okay? Like everybody agrees that East Howard is the #1. Reason I don't think we should do anything with Howard is because we do not know what's going on in East Howard. Like Michael said before, is Chatham gonna come on board? If they're not gonna come on board, and we have to put something else somewhere else, well, that does change our direction of what's going on. So I think we should just leave Howardsport alone till East Howard is all settled. Once East Howard is all settled, then we look into tying Howardsport and work our way through the town. But right now, we should just leave it alone because we don't know what's going on with the rest of the town.
All right. Thank you. For the next question, what will you do to encourage more people to apply for positions on one of our 40-plus boards and committees? This is always a challenge in towns. And for that one, we'll start with Bob.
Talk to people. Do the communication. Talk with them. Tell them why it's important to get involved with the town. Why it's, give them some say. Everybody has complaints. Everybody has, comments to make. Well, step up and do something about it. If you don't step up and do something about it, then you really can't complain. So, to get them encouraged to get very active with the town, no matter how old you are, no matter what you have. So that's what I would do.
Okay. Julie?
I think that obviously communication with, your neighbors and other people in the community is obviously probably the most effective. But I also wonder if there's a way to circulate that information better than just advertising in the paper and such. I'm wondering if, that's something that could be put into the Monomoy focus that goes out to all the parents and such. I mean, you're reaching a mass audience, and, maybe you also distribute it. Maybe it's already distributed, I'm not sure, through elder services and those kind of, publications. But something that would appeal to all levels of the community, because we ultimately need every avenue employed, whether it be, the Board of Selectmen, whether it be the Water Department, the Housing Authority. It would be nice to have a reach to all those generations. We're looking at, say, the 18 to 30s, the 30 to 50, the 50 to onward. I think that maybe we could look at a different way to communicate that information.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Beg.
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 One-word answer, huh? You said you were brief.
To expand on that, we
I don't think you need to.
right. I'm on the interview committee for people that are interested. It really is communication, but voter information is, or we are completing the new committee handbook. Once that's done, I know voter information is going to do, I believe they're going to do a show on that. Channel 18, as much communication as we can. I think I found that people, it's time constraints. I mean, with families and timing of meetings and what you happen to be interested in. It's easy to fill a committee when a hot topic comes up. So if we could create a controversy in every section of every one of those committees, we could fill the committees. But just encouragement, really.
Okay, and Linda, do you have anything to add?
I would say beg as well, because I know that I talk to people about, they'll be saying, oh, well, this issue, I have this issue, and da-da-da-da-da, and I say, well, why don't you go over and join that committee? And, you know, just keep trying to encourage people to join them. I think one thing that needs to be looked at is the timing of some of these committees. There are ones that meet in the morning or in the afternoon that may serve one segment, but if we change those meetings to evening, to late afternoon, I think the committees need to start looking at that as to when people can get there to a meeting. But really, if it wasn't for the committees, which are the lifeblood of this community, nothing would get done. I mean, they are so important for bringing specific issues through the process, doing the research, and bringing issues up, bringing changes up, and projects. I mean, they're just invaluable.
Okay, I covered all of you, correct? All right, this will be our final question. And a questioner would like to know a little bit more about some of the experience that you bring would bring to the role of selectman. So the question deals with what volunteer work have you done in our town that could support your role, or, you know, just what volunteer work have you done, I think is really the question that would add to an experience that you can use as select person. Oh, sorry. Bob, we'll start with you.
Volunteer work, I do not have any. I'll tell you right now. I was more interested in my family than volunteering. What can I bring in as selectman, especially to the wastewater committee? I have a bachelor's of science in geology, okay, with a master's in natural science with environmental studies. So I can bring something into the wastewater committee. All right, I can bring something into soiling samples, if we need any of that going on with building new houses or building anything that we need in town. So that's what I can bring in as volunteer experience. Okay, so I like to say I have absolutely none like that, but I do have the educational background to, you know, help as to work as a selectman. So.
Michael?
I don't have a lot of volunteer. I did the middle school repurpose committee for a year, and then I've done stuff with the school, and then I've been on the Board of Selectmen for about a year. I spend a lot of time researching. I generally will not talk about something unless I spend a lot of time reading about it. So given the tasks that we've had so far in town, I spend an awful lot of time knowing about the subject before I talk about it. That's really it. I'm dedicated to what I'm doing, and spent 6 months going to meetings before I was on the Board of Selectmen, every meeting, every committee in town, just to kind of see what they did and how they did it, including all of the board meetings. So I have a fairly in-depth knowledge of what we're doing right now, but every subject is different, and I am committed to learning about what we're doing.
Okay, Linda?
Volunteer work. I started out on the insurance committee of Harwich, and when I signed up and said I'd like to be on the insurance committee, they said, really? Nobody wants to be on that. And then I spent time on the housing committee, and then 5 years on the finance committee. Volunteer work, I'm on the board of three not-for-profits in the area that provide community services. I work for Habitat right in town and swing a hammer for them, and none of my houses have fallen down yet. So I'm very active in the community. If it wasn't for another debate on Saturday morning, I'd be at Tour de Trash, because I think that's another. I'm just community involved and active in the community, and going to the various committee meetings that we Board of Selectmen liaisons to. You just find out all kinds of stuff that's going on, and it just brings you more and more involved into the volunteer and community spirit.
All right. Julie.
I'm the same in the sense that I don't have a lot of volunteer board experience. I've done plenty with the schools throughout the elementary and, you know, the middle and the high school, but in terms of serving on a board previously, I haven't, and this is my opportunity to. Like I said, I feel like I have the time to do it now, so with my kids getting older, so I hope to get the opportunity to.
All right. Okay, so we'll move to the very final portion, which is your opportunity to make one last plea for people to give you their vote, and you have 1 minute to do it. Go ahead, and we'll start in reverse order, so we'll be starting with Linda.
Well, thank you for listening, and I hope that I've answered your questions, and I hope that I have given enough information about you that you will vote for me. And I ask you to. I'd like to continue to serve my community, because it is my community just as much as it's anyone else's community. I live here too, and I feel very strongly that I can be a very valuable member for the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Okay, Julie?
I would just like to close by saying that I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to share my views, and I hope that you will support me. I look forward to giving back to the community that I love to live in, and I look forward to seeing it progress. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I mixed up the reverse. It should have been Michael, but Michael, forgive me. Can you go now with
Sure,
your 1 minute?
Yeah. Thank you all for coming and listening to us, and thank the League for putting this on. I represent the community, and I hope to continue to represent the community. I have an open door. Our information is all available in the Selectman's office. I will speak to anyone at any time individually about a topic that they're interested in, and I hope for your support.
Okay, and Bob?
Well, thank you, myself, but I do also have an open door policy. You know, anybody has problems, they can see me up in my restaurant. You can talk to me anytime, call me anytime. Just asking for your vote to give me a chance to show you what I can do for the town that I also enjoy and love very much.
All right. Thank you, candidates, and you can show your appreciation as well. Okay, I want to encourage everyone in the viewing audience at home, and all of you probably don't even need encouragement, but do remember to vote on Tuesday, May 17th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you need an absentee ballot, usually those applications are available from your town clerk. I meant to check on the date and I forgot to do that, but usually up to the day before an election, and get those in, and if you find out unexpectedly, you have to be out or know ahead of time. So thank you for your interest, for your many questions, and I really enjoyed being here with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.